plan, the airport master doesn't seek to replace the master plan. It's not an infrastructure plan. The infrastructure required in the airport is laid out in the master plan, and it would likely be laid out in an update to that plan. I think it's an ambitious and aggressive plan. It's got a 9-year time frame to it, but notwithstanding that, it's also scalable, and it could be the time frame. It could be shortened or lengthened based on future direction by a board of directors, if that's the case. And it relies on a range of assumptions to make operational and financial projections. The assumptions are based on research, they're based on historical data, some of them are based on the master plan, and some of them are based on just things that we know as a team. So next slide, please. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the next 3 slides. It just this shows you how I structured the business case. The first section is the strategic context. It kind of basically lays out what the business need is, what the outcome of the business need would be, and it talks about the business opportunity as a high level. Looks at some of the assumptions, constraints, and dependencies that the opportunity is rated against. Next slide, please. This is probably what I would call the meat of the business case. It's the analysis of the business opportunity, which is to create that airport business park, if you will. There's a number of there's 6 activities that I identified. What I would call operations and management of the airport, and notably mostly through a third-party relationship, continuation of that. Airside improvements, which is new infrastructure and improved infrastructure that's outlined in the master plan and potentially in the future master plan. Terminal building renewal is the notion that a new terminal building would add a lot of operational depth to the airport as a business. New hangar development, which is ongoing business, and we see certainly lots of potential in that business, both continuing and accelerating. Commercial and industrial land development through aviation or non-aviation uses, which would generate lease income, as well as the continuation of existing commercial and land leases, existing hangars, and maybe some potential new land leases as well. A timeline and a land use plan are included. They're high level. The land use plan is certainly just what we thought where things could go, but that would probably need to be sorted out through a much more detailed planning at a later stage. And risks and how the risks are mitigated are identified. In the next slide. And finally, the third section identifies governance and oversight, and it is a proposal to incorporate the airport, transfer the airport property to that incorporated body, and run it through a municipal services corporation model, which is allowable under the Municipal Act. The business case reviews the management strategy for that corporation at a high level, and it also reviews how performance of the Municipal Services Corporation would be measured by City Council, who's assumed to be the sole shareholder of that corporation. Again, more details on that would be flushed out if this was to carry forward. Last slide, please. So I think what I believe is that it lays the business case that we presented lays out a potential evolution of the airport's business. It's not proposing to change dramatically what the airport currently represents to the community, but we believe to improve it, to make it a little more financially sustainable, and to create a financial platform that could seek significant investment in the airport as an entity. We're proposing also a Municipal Services Corporation, and we believe that it continues the impressive heritage of the airport while opening up new avenues for revenue sustainability and for a prosperous entity. So, Mr. Chair, that's my short presentation. I'm happy to answer questions either now or when the staff report.
I have a few. I'll let the floor go first. So, anybody have any questions from the members of the committee? Councilor Martin, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. One of the things on here is dividends to the shareholder. What's the reason for that?
I think most corporations, usually when a shareholder has a share of something, in this case a corporation, the shareholder expects a dividend. So the financial model that I've laid out has enough capacity to issue a dividend back to the shareholder. Not a significant one. I think the first dividend after 3 years would be about $250,000, and then increasing annually past that. That's, of course, really, that's just a projection that I put in here. That's the decision of the board of directors whether to issue a dividend or not. And usually a conversation between the board of directors and the shareholder, in this case, the city of Brantford, whether the city wants dividends. So but I've put it in there as a placeholder because I believe there's enough liquidity in the plan to provide a dividend annually after a certain point.
Okay, so it'd be a decision of the board, so that could be pushed back until it's profitable instead of, well, still losing money.
Yeah, exactly. Through you, Mr. Chair, the dividend is the decision of the board, and it could be the decisions of the board to reinvest that money as opposed to moving it to the shareholder. That's usually up to the board, and usually through a discussion with the shareholders.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? While everybody else is thinking, Mayor Davis, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't get too far down into the weeds on this, but with a Municipal Services Corporation, of course, there's a board of directors. And would it also be contemplated that there'd be some kind of stipend for the directors, similar to what you see with other private corporations?
Mr. Through you, yeah, I would assume that the directors would receive an annual honorarium. That's fairly common with the corporation. I have modeled an honorarium into the administrative line in the pro forma.
Right. So the intent is you're trying to attract people that are qualified.
Exactly.
Right. And if do I understand the basic business concept to be, since with this, the airport property wouldn't be owned directly by the city, but by a corporation that the city is a shareholder of, that you can use the equity in the airport to take debt on, the debt being used to develop the airport.
Previous year, yes, that's correct.
And it's that new development that then spins off the additional revenue, lease payments, etc., that hopefully over time will actually generate a profit.
Previous year, that is correct.
And are you quite confident in your pro forma?
Previous year, yeah, I believe the pro forma is, in fact, I think it's conservative. I think there's probably more. I think there's more revenue to be extracted out of the model than I've laid out, but I've tried to be conservative. So I think the airport has a very significant opportunity.
Right. And it also allows you the opportunity to take in other shareholders, like another municipality.
Mr. Chair, that would of course be the shareholders' decision whether it wants to bring other shareholders.
Okay. And so why can't you do all that under current plan?
Through this chair, certainly developing the airport as a business under municipal ownership is possible. It's more difficult. It's my understanding, I'm not a municipal finance expert. I have quite a bit of background in it, that raising capital, raising what I would call free capital on municipal asset is harder under municipal ownership as it is under a corporate. And that's why municipal utilities were incorporated instead of being left in municipal ownership back when the electrical utilities were deregulated in the 90s. So that's why they were deregulated, to provide them with access to what I call free operating capital.
And so my last question, so we do have a successful model for this right here in Brantford, and that of course is the Hydro Corporation, which is now merged and is now referred to as Brantford. Kind of the same concept, isn't it?
Through Mr. Yes, it is. Incorporated under the Electricity Act instead of the Municipal Act, but very much the same concept, and basically all utilized through Municipal Services Corporation.
Right. Thank you.
So can you just describe us in a little bit more detail, not too much detail, the governance model that you vision?
Sure, Mr. Chair, and to you. So as I mentioned, the governance model would be a municipal services corporation. It's assumed that the municipality would incorporate that corporation, and then it would transfer the airport property and all of its assets over to that corporation. It would then set up a board of directors. Usually in this situation, the board of directors would be comprised of some members of council representing the shareholder, and then members that it would be recruiting from the community. As the mayor said, usually looking for some people with some specific expertise. The board of directors would then be charged to operate and govern the airport, and it would do so under the framework of what's something called a shareholder declaration, which would be a document owned by the shareholder and approved by the shareholder. That's essentially the orders, if you will, of the shareholder to that board of directors, this is how you will govern this is how you will operate and govern our corporation. And then the shareholder, the city would make sure that it's being operated in accordance with that through an annual report. So every year the board of directors would probably direct its chair and its principal staff member, usually a CEO, to attend an annual meeting of the shareholder, report on performance, and confirm that they are in fact operating the business in accordance with that shareholder declaration. It's at a high level, that's how governance would happen. I'm happy to provide.
So then the board would hire somebody to do the management, or the board would hire a general manager. Is that
to you, Mr. Chair? It's assumed that the board would need a CEO or executive director. There's different models that could be happening. The board could go out and get its own. It could also enter into an agreement with the city to have a city staff member serve at that and the corporation that I created for the county. That's what we did for a while. We had a city executive serve as the CEO until the organization was big enough to carry its own CEO, and then we went out and got a CEO. So again, that's something the board, probably working with the shareholder in the setup period, would determine. There's lots of models.
Okay, so last question. This is a business case that you are asking us to approve, and then that would go up to council for them to approve. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so what's being proposed is that the business case be endorsed so that by the board, and that it be presented to the city council for city council's consideration.
And if they approve it, sorry, Mr. Bradley, when they approve it, then what is our next step? That we've got a business case, we go to a. How do we get to the point where we start?
Yeah, sure, Mr. Chair. So the Municipal Act lays out what the steps are to create a corporation. The first step is that council has to consider a business case, and then the next step is that public input has to be received on the business case. So if council approved the business case, then it would need to get public input on that business case in some format. The Municipal Act is quiet on how that happens. Once that public input has been received, and the Municipal Act doesn't have any guidance on what to do with the public input, then it would need to be presented with a shareholder declaration to approve. And the shareholder declaration would lay out, as I indicated earlier, how the shareholder expects that the corporation is going to be managed. And at that point, then also it's assumed city council as shareholder would give direction to incorporate and to appoint a board of directors. So those are
similar to Grand Energy. Is that similar to the model that was created there?
No.
Mayor?
Yeah, I don't think so, because that was a merger. So
Yeah, it was a merger.
Okay, all right, thank you. That was all my questions. Jeff, you have
I have a question. A very simple, maybe a stupid question is, who's doing all this work for the airport right now? All this management work.
Yeah. And I think the best answer to that is several people. It's sitting on the corner of many desks, in my opinion, many desks here at the city. So I'm doing some, Ray's doing some, Hansel's doing some, board in the back here is doing some. It's a lot of people handling small pieces of the airport. And personally, I think that's not a very effective model. So I think the idea of the corporation is it brings it all into a single body, and it allows the airport to have its own staff, its own dedicated staff with dedicated direction on how to implement the future business plan of the airport.
My question is, this work is getting done right now. Everybody's doing a little bit of it, and it's costing so much, but it's being done. So if we have to hire this new board, and the board's going to hire a whole new staff, how do you compare the cost of this new staff, management staff, compared to what we're doing right now?
Sure. Well, some of your expenses, some of the expenses are the same. Like you're still going to have certain costs, and they've been factored into the pro forma. I think what we don't have, probably we aren't reporting on, is what the overhead costs of the management system for the airport are. Again, they're being addressed by multiple people, and Mr. Hutchins may want to put some color to this. But right in this model, you can precisely quantify what it costs to operate an airport.
So it'll cost us more in the long run to operate it with this new model.
I think it would cost you more, but I think it'd also make more. Right. So the issue right now is that you know, if you look around the room right now, we've got, you know, 2 real estate people, we've got, you know, lots of people doing about 10%
Property management market.
efforts. And this would give you dedicated, so I mean, look at Kim right now, she's got about 20 buildings to manage, including the airport. So when somebody wants a T-hanger built, it's a lot faster than we can do it. Kim's got about 20 projects going on besides T-hangers. So it's, you don't have that dedicated resource, that focus. First, you know, one of my biggest discoveries in coming to Brantford was the airport. And I think it's got huge economic opportunity. I think it's been, you know, it's lots and lots of possibilities for this airport. And I said maybe extra cost, but I think there'd be a lot more extra revenues coming into the airport as Mr. Bradley's pro forma shows.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Sorry, Councilor Martin.
Not so much question, but a comment. I think if we had this model in place a couple of years ago, the T-hangers that we're hoping to start construction on in the spring would have been built in the fall when they were needed, so pilots could get their planes in out of the winter weather. So this model will allow us to move much quicker to meet the demand that there is right now. There's demand for T-hangers, there's demand for commercial hangars. And with the city model, because it's, you know, it's 10% of this person's time and 10% of that person's time, things fall through the cracks. And I think with this model, that things could be moved along quicker, and we'd have the revenue from whatever hangars we build sooner as well. So I think it's a good idea. I think I support it.
So thank you, Mayor Davis.
Yeah,
Not thank you yet.
I'm going to support it. No surprise, I was pushing for it because I've seen the value in other situations, and what it is, it's like the management approach. Like right now, the way we manage the airport, it's kind of a lot of politics involved, and it's really about maintaining the status quo with, let's add some more T-hangers. Whereas this approach, I think, will bring a more business-oriented approach, looking at it like a business airport asset, trying to maximize the revenue and trying to capture the full economic potential of the airport operated as an airport. And you get that through a board that has that as its mission, and with management and directionality provided through the staff, and with the same kind of philosophy and vision. Whereas right now, when you manage it as a kind of a city department, the entrepreneurial spirit isn't there because that's just not what municipalities are about. And so when you have an asset like this, that's not like a water treatment plant or a Wayne Gretzky Center, and more like a business type asset, it usually, the end result, when you have a business type approach with a board of directors and a separate corporation, it allows for the pursuit of many more opportunities, business opportunities, than you could ever get in a kind of a traditional municipal governance model. And because the airport's not a traditional municipal asset, I think it calls for a different management and governance approach to make the most of the asset.
So now, thank you, Mr. Bradley. We'll move right into items for consideration. And there is one motion there. Mayor Davis, would like to read the motion and make the motion, and I'll look for a seconder.
Well, I'd rather somebody else do that.
Councilor Martin, would you like to read the motion? And then we'll look for a seconder, and then we can have the discussion on the motion.
Certainly. I move that report 2024-34 titled Business Case for Brantford Municipal Airport be received. And B, that Brantford Airport Board recommends that the Council of the City of Brantford review, consider, and approve the business case for the Brantford Municipal Airport, including the establishment of a municipal services corporation to own, govern, and manage the Brantford Municipal Airport.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Aaron. Any discussion on this? I think we've done it. You can only answer questions, so I'm sorry. Mayor Davis, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And there is one other reason why this model interests me, and that's because I think one of our objectives, no matter who governs the board or administers, is we'd like to see a better partnership with the county. And it's really hard to do that with the county if it's part of the city of Brantford. But when it's a standalone corporation, the city will own 100% of the shares, but it raises the possibility of, if the county's interested, they can come in as another shareholder, maybe 20, 10, 20, 30%. So they then become a real partner with representation on the board. It gives us that opportunity, whether it's pursued or not, it's not matter. Whereas in the current structure, really probably impossible to do that.
Any other questions? I will call the question on the motion on the floor. All those in favor? Congratulations, staff, Mr. Bradley. You're well done on this stuff. We have 3 consent items. Well, all the consent items, I'll put them on the floor. We're going to have a mover and a seconder and going to separate them all. Moved by Council Martin, seconded by Jeff. And all consent items on the floor. 611, Ray, you have the floor, sir.
Yep, just a quick and easy real estate report this month. No vacancies in our commercial space or our T hangers. I know you guys are getting sick of me saying that, but I have no new reports on that. That's it from real estate, and we have someone here from facilities to speak to the construction of the new T hangers as well.
Any questions on 611 real estate update? The T hangers are not being built yet, and there's no vacancies. Okay, I'll call the question on that. All those in favor of 611, carried. 612 facilities update. I know you've been waiting for the whole meeting just for a chance to speak.
I know, I've been waiting through the chair. Today's facility update, there's nothing operational to report, so Gord is going to give the T hanger update for us today.
Good afternoon. I'm Gord Gavrilovich. I'm the manager of facilities capital development, and my team is looking after getting the hangars built. Just to give you a bit of an update on where we're at with this, and a bit of a background. You know, the T hanger project was initiated earlier this year, with the scope being to add on to hangar 4 with an additional 5 bays, and to build one brand new 12-bay T hanger building. We developed concept plans, site plans. We had some civil drawings done. We did all site investigations, geotechnical reports, everything required to get this RFP out. We were about to go out with an RFP for design build services to get this done. And then we understood that there was a request to add one more 9-bay T hanger, which was wider wingspan aircraft. So we held off going out for the RFP until a decision was made on that. That came in August of 2023. At that time, we had to go back to our consultants to revise their concept plans. We had to get some additional geotechnical investigations done and finalize the RFP, which we put out on our city's bids and tenders site on October 11th. It closed on November 13th of 2023. We received 4 bids, and upon review in December of these bids, they all came in over our approved budget, and significantly over, I might say. There was no room to have any negotiations with these bidders. So the intent here is to re-tender this project. We had discussions with a couple of bidders to understand, was there something that we missed? Was the RFP not detailed enough? And their response was the RFP was fine, these specs were fine, the concept drawings were fine. It just seems that pricing has escalated so much in the steel market, because these are steel prefabricated hangars. And you know, the pricing came in almost double what we were expecting. We did go back to our consultant who helped us develop the cost estimates. We had a discussion with them to understand, you know, why there was such a difference, And they were quite shocked and surprised that the pricing came in that high. So the intent is right now we are rejigging our RFP to allow a little bit more flexibility when we get pricing back, so that we can price out each building and make decisions on available budget, what buildings we can build. And if we need to add more buildings, we will have to seek additional funding.
Mr. Petro, how many people are on the waiting list right now?
Comfortably, I could say between 25 and 30. It's kind of a floating list, so people drop off, they go elsewhere, but 25 to 30 easily.
So my question for you, when would the time frame be on that to start getting dating?
Sorry, for the RP or to start construction?
So we get to start building the hangars, build it.
We will get this RFP out within the next 2 weeks. It has to be out at least a month. So we're into end of February. We could start construction around April.
Mayor Davis, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Gord, the financial model for these T hangars, I assume it has built into an assumption that the rental revenue will pay the capital cost over 10 years, 15 years. What's that model?
Great question. You can answer.
Yes, through the chair to Mayor Davis. So I'd worked with Rick Cox on this project, and we had scheduled the return to be over a 20-year period.
Okay. So if you have a cost, let's say that's double, can we still proceed, but just we're going to double the rent?
Through the chair to Mayor Davis, at some point you get to a point where it's just not cost effective to fill the hangars. So certainly I can say that staff will maximize the amount of rent that we can get to pay down that debt sooner, but I can't realistically say that double would be the number.
Okay. But if I understand, don't we have a situation in Southern Ontario where there's basically no T hangars?
Through the chair, that is correct. There's a very low inventory of T hangars. However, there are certain, we'll call them projects, where people are building larger commercial T hangars and people are renting or sub-renting space from them. And that's something we as a municipality have to be aware of as our competition.
Well, could we do this? Can you, let's say it's going to cost X. You redo it, comes in at still high amount. And let's say that you then make your calculations and you determine, okay, to make this economically feasible, the rent's going to have to be X. And then before you commit on the bid, you tell the people on the waiting list, look, prices come in higher, this is going to be the rent. Still interested?
Yeah, through the chair, that's an opportunity that we have in front of us for sure. Just at some point, I guess we just have to look at those numbers and see how much higher they are than the going rate.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Jeff, you have the floor.
Yeah. I understand, I think from the report, the cost of building the hangars was calculated or proposed to be $80 a square foot. That was in the report. And I know that the hangars can be built over a number of years. Was the price for construction 3 years or 4 years down the road, was $80 a foot still used in the calculations?
The cost estimate we got from the consultants is about a year old. So we received it, I would say, towards the end of 2022.
So it's going to cost more 3 years down the road, obviously. If it's $80 right now,
it's going to cost more.
So the calculations of what it's going to cost us in 3 years, is it going to, are you still using the $80 benchmark or say $120 benchmark? Because that's going to change the numbers tremendously, really.
Are you referring to the business case?
Yeah, and the business case, yeah.
So I inflated annually. I applied an annual inflation.
Okay.
Based on some assumptions that I
made. Yeah. Also, I got a question. I understand with the commercial property, which I'm not really familiar with, but when you do rent out commercial property, there's something called like a CDI. It's like where the tenants kick in for the maintenance of the actual building. So if there's roof problems or whatever, there's a calculation at the end of each year. Is that same principal being used for our T hangers?
So through the chair to the board member, no, not currently. Currently, our T hanger tenants pay an all-in price, but certainly moving forward, in terms of the commercial side of things, the straight commercial tenancies, and it would be a complete triple net lease, which would mean that the municipality would have zero maintenance costs, taxes, anything. All the taxes are passed, all the expenses are passed to the tenant.
So,
Yes.
To the chair. My question is, if steel has gone up and that's what your guidelines are for building, is that governed by anybody, by transport? Can you change materials and build it for cheaper?
Through the chair, yeah, we did investigate changing the material to let's say a wood frame construction, and cost savings are not significant. And to add to that, we have been advised recently that the steel prices are still going up.
Seeing no other questions, well done, sir. And I'll call the question on facilities update. All those in favor? Carried. Airport management, I know you've been waiting with bated breath, Sean, so you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick report for you. It's been terrible winter weather this last month here, so we've had plenty of opportunity to work with our snow contractors, and they've got some new crews that are learning quickly and getting the hang of things. We've been able to keep up. We've had bearskin operations. We haven't had to divert any of the bearskin operations away from the airport due to snow or weather. So we've been on top of that, which is great. And it's some of the usual challenges with the automated gates as they deal with extreme cold and ice buildup inside the mechanisms and so on. So a little bit of maintenance to go there. I did spend a few hours on the phone with Glenn, who we spoke with earlier, going over the other in-camera section there. So we were talking T hangers, and then just looking ahead, lots of stuff on the go, getting all of our stuff geared up. It's still snow on the ground, but getting geared up for spring and summer, getting all of our equipment ready to go for that as well as we speak, including some summer students and summer events. So something like that.
And you highlight the airport nicely, especially a lot of people that aren't even flyers that go to the wine and cheese events and they talk about it, so that's well done. So any questions for our manager, Mr. Brown? Seeing that, I'll call the question on that. All in favor? Carried. Minutes. Is everybody okay with the minutes? Can I have a mover and a seconder on the minutes? Moved by Jeff, seconded by Councilor Martin. All in favor? Carried. Kristen, when's our next meeting?
February 12th at the airport.
At the airport. So thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.